Hi there everybody, welcome to another video. On today's video here at Daring Beefcake, I have this BMW X1. This is a 2017 DS Drive 1.8i. So this particular engine here is a 1.5 liter petrol, and this car is an automatic for reference. So on today's video we're going to be changing the oil and the oil filter. I'm also going to show you where to top up some screen wash fluid and where to check the coolant level and perhaps the coolant percentage. So we're going to start by topping up some screen wash fluid, and if you obviously get your bonnet open, you have to pull on the little lever twice inside of the car, and then the bonnet pops up a little bit and then you can pull it up. So once you've done that, here's where the screen wash fluid goes. Blue cover with that little picture of a windscreen with some water, and I've got some screen wash fluid here. Now you can buy this screen wash fluid anywhere, any garage or petrol station. I mean, you can buy the ready mixed one, or like this one here, ready to use. So I normally get the concentrated one and mix it myself. That way, obviously, it lasts a little bit longer because I have lots of cars that I'm doing all the time. But if you're just buying it for your own car, just buy one of these 5 liter and pour it in there. It's not a good idea to put just water in, because water freezes in winter, and then you have no water coming out your windscreen. Or people sometimes add some washing up liquid mixed with water, and that becomes a mess on your windscreen. So just buy the proper stuff. It's cheap enough, not expensive. Something like this is about £4, I think, from Halfords. You can get different deals anyway. This is green. Usually I get a blue one. Sometimes they have pink. The color doesn't really matter, but it covers you up to, like it says there, -20. So then we can close that, and that is done. Now I'm going to show you the coolant and where to check it. And also I have this device here that if you suck some of the coolant out, it shows you here the percentage of antifreeze that's in it. So that means to what temperature this coolant will actually freeze. So coolant will be here in this expansion tank. Do not open this cap if the engine's been running and it's really hot. Just wait until it cools down. Mine was running a little bit. I sort of warmed it up because I wanted to, I'm going to change the oil, and to get drain the oil a little bit warm should be fine. But always open that with care anyway, because some pressure may build up, and just want to release that pressure. Okay, get that cover out, and in there you will see those 2 marks. You have a minimum and a maximum mark. Now you can see them as color yellow, so technically the coolant should be just by the max, and in this case scenario there isn't enough coolant that is actually reaching even the minimum. So that could be a slight concern in this case scenario, because I'm just wondering why there's no coolant in there. Let's see if we can actually right. So normally we would suck some coolant and it would come in here. So there's no coolant in there. It might be that it's really low for whatever reason. It could be a leak somewhere, which is something I'm going to have to check. But for now, I may top up some coolant to show you what it looks like when it's at the max. Okay, I just wanted to show you this. If you shine a light into the tank, you can see where the coolant is up to. It's actually just at the bottom of this container here. It's a kind of bluish color, blue, green, that kind of antifreeze that is used in this car. But to be so low, it could be, I mean, it could be that there was some work done in the car as well. So I don't really know, because this car, we just got this car not long ago, and obviously I'm just preparing it, doing its service, so it's ready to be sold. But if it had some work done, which required the coolant to come out, when they refill the coolant, maybe there was they just didn't put enough at the time. So it's really difficult to say at the minute. I'm gonna have to top it up, and then we're gonna have to drive the car and see if there are any obvious leaks around. If not, then obviously we can just leave it until next year and see what happens. Right, so as I was saying, I'm going to top up some coolant. I can actually just about see that the coolant is at the minimum. You can just see the change in color in there. That min there looks a little bit more bluish, but it's barely there. So I topped it up. Actually, to get to the max, I only had to top up about 100 mil. So this container still looks empty. So the little minimum and maximum mark are really, really low. So I'm not really that concerned anymore. I thought it's a bit of a, what do you call it? When you have, when something appears to be higher than it is. So the max mark there, I thought it was like somewhere up here, but it's not. It's really low down. So anyway, I managed to top up some coolant, and I sucked some coolant from these now, and you can see there is sort of showing me around minus 24. So the temperature outside would need to be around minus 24 in order for this coolant to freeze. So here in the UK we're safe with that. Obviously if you're in the North Pole and it's minus 40, then that wouldn't be good. You'll need a stronger antifreeze. So let me show you now where this is at. So now you can see the coolant, and it's covering the max mark. That little max mark doesn't look as yellow now. And if I show you here, that tank still looks empty. So if you face the same, just remember this does not need to be completely full. So I'm actually happy with that now. I was a little bit concerned, but not now. Close that and we're done. This engine here is quite a common engine now. It's fitted to the Minis and quite a few other BMWs I've seen it on. And well, anyway, now we can move on to the oil and the oil filter. And the first thing I'm going to do is open this cover and just leave it sitting there. So just to allow some air to come in while we drain the oil from underneath and we tackle the filter. If there's some air coming from the top, then that oil can drain a bit faster. So I'm gonna get the car up and start draining the oil. So actually, before I drain the oil, this is the oil filter I'm using today. It's a Hengst E951HD497. So usually I take the old filter out and compare them, obviously make sure they fit in case they gave me the wrong one. So don't just go and order one like this. Make sure you order the correct one for your vehicle by using the registration or the chassis, because sometimes depending on the engine size or model year or whatever, they can be slightly different. So, and also I'm going to use 5W30 oil. 5W30 is a good thin oil for the sort of temperatures we get here in the UK. If you were in the North Pole where it's -40, perhaps you want to choose 0W20 or 0W30. And if you were in the middle of the Sahara Desert at +40 degrees, then maybe you want slightly thicker oil like 10W40 or something like that. So let's proceed with this one. So looking at the car from underneath, we have these two covers here, one and this one here. And with the screwdriver, you just want to flick those open, and this one here. So behind this one there will be the oil filter housing, which is a bit of a pain in the neck to do because you get oil everywhere. Either way, you try to do this in a clean way and it doesn't work out. Right, now we open that. We're gonna need a 17mm socket for that, and then we have to, the filter is sitting just there, so we need to open that little cover there and let the oil drain out. There is you need like a Torx to fit in there. Right, so if you open your filter and you check the contents, this is a different filter, by the way, for a different car. You're gonna find a filter, an O-ring, a new copper washer, and this little cover that we need to replace. So this here is a T55. So you need a Torx T55 in order to open this little plug, which is basically a drain plug. We will first drain the oil from the filter, then we can fit this back on and then take the filter out. And for taking the filter out, I think we have to do it with something like one of these. Is a 32mm, no, I think it's not 27, it's actually a bigger one. It's gonna be something like one of these that I've got here, but we'll find out in a minute. Something like a 30mm or something. Right, got my 17mm here. I'm gonna first open the drain oil bolt here, and as you saw, I have my oil pan sitting there. Now this car, as I mentioned, was not running that much, which means the oil is not going to be that hot in there, so it should be okay. But if you had the car running for a long time, the oil can be very hot and you can also burn yourself. So make sure you don't burn yourself. As I mentioned before, you could always wait for the car to cool down a bit, so you can take this sun plug bolt without any issues. Fortunately, this little cover is going to get a bit messy because we have about 4 liters to drain. So okay, there we are. Alright, funny enough, it's kind of pointing away from that, just about. And the copper washer is sitting there. We're gonna dispose of that and use a new one. So I'm just gonna clean this while we let that drain. So while that is draining, we can remove the little drain plug out of this filter here. But you saw where it has to go, you saw the little splines for that bit, and I can't see anything, but I'm pretty sure it's just somewhere there. This is always a pain in the neck to do, but has to be done. And kind of need a tight here, but anyway, okay, I got it there. So I'm gonna open that, and that little plug is only tightened to something like 5 Newton meters. So just be careful not to over tighten it when you re-tighten that. If you're unfamiliar with what 5 Newton meters is, then you should get a small torque wrench so you can torque that to the correct setting. Otherwise this little thing will get damaged, because it's only plastic going into plastic. So as you can see, we're going to drain that oil. Once it's finished, we're going to put the new little plug back in there. So that's leaked enough. I've got my new plug here. I put a little bit of grease around these the O-rings, which this has. It's got 2 O-rings in it. One that's just sitting here at the bottom, and the other one is just sitting at the top. So put a little bit of grease around there so this can slide in there without any issues. And I have to find the correct position. It might actually be easier to put it without the extension, because it is sitting at a bit of an angle, and that angle sometimes can be a bit of a pain in the neck. Right, okay. Yeah. Better to even put it in without this, without the tool, because even the tool causes a bit of a, it's because you have all sorts of, and now that, okay, I got it back in there. But well, you can't see anything. But what I want to do is clean, because I had a bit of oil dripping onto my hand. So this is very slippery now, and I can't close it. So 5 Newton meters is not a lot of force. You can actually literally close this with your hand. That way you're not going to damage it. If I use the ratchet, it's too much force, possibly damage it. I have kept the old one just in case. If I break this or the new one, then I can still reuse the old one. It's not at the end of the world, but obviously it's best to use a new one. So I'm just going to clean this, and I'm going to tighten that, and we still need to remove the whole housing. Okay, so closing it by hand can be a bit of a challenge actually. So I did use my ratchet in the end, but you just have to be careful. So now we need to remove the whole filter in itself to get the actual paper filter out. Okay, so the actual socket that we need is a 32 mil. That 32 mil is going to fit on that. And I already sort of cracked this open. So all you need to do is undo it. It's not gonna be too tight to undo. It's like I said, it's about 30. It says there 25 plus or minus Newton meters that this gets tightened to. So it shouldn't be too tight anyway, especially if the car has been regularly serviced and whatnot. If it hasn't, then sometimes they can be really tight. They get stuck in there. Okay, now we can perhaps undo it by hand and take it out. There is our filter with a new cover. So now it's just a matter of pulling that one out, getting the little O-ring out, and renewing the filter. Okay, so as I said, you wanna pull this out. So this is gonna be stuck in there. It's gonna be plugged in. I've already pulled it out because I couldn't do it with one hand, and it will come out like this. Now, when you pull it out, there is still gonna be some oil in there that didn't drain, and so you just want to dispose of that oil, because it's going to be So what happens is when you pull the filter out, some oil jumps everywhere, as it did here. That's why I had my paper. So whatever you do to avoid mess, it doesn't happen. Now, in this bottle here, I keep some brake fluid cleaning, well, cleaning fluid basically, which is used for, it's called brake cleaner. It's a liquid that is really good for cleaning oil and stuff like that, and obviously brake fluid. So I like to rinse the oil filter housing here a little bit. We give it a bit of a rinse. Nothing too dramatic. And that is that. So I'm just gonna let it dry. Pick it up. A bit of paper. And that is basically ready for our new filter, which I just dropped. And also, don't forget to, you have a new copper washer. Take the old one out, put a new one in there. You can also go ahead and fit that in here. And these are normally tightened to like 30, between 30 and 35 Newton meters. So again, having a torque wrench is a good idea. Now, usually use one of these to pick the old O-ring out, like that. So all you want to do is take that O-ring out and fit the new one. So I'll go ahead and do that. Oh, okay, just managed to do it with one hand. Didn't think that was gonna happen, but it did. And fitting the new one, that's probably not going to happen with one hand. So I'll just get my two hands and just fit it. Okay, so I just cleaned a bit more inside of there with my one of those. Clean that in there. Now we're ready to fit that as well. So that should plug in, and my O-ring, it's in place, and I put some multi-purpose grease around the O-ring. So just some multi-purpose grease, something like this. You can also use a bit of oil, the oil that you're gonna use to put in the car, a little bit of that to go around that O-ring. It helps the O-ring slide in a bit nicer into the housing where it's going now. And the other thing, it might be, if I remember, when you push this in, you have to, it's a little bit difficult to get it in because this is going into I think there is a pipe that sticks down there. So in some models there is, I'm not sure this one has. So there is a small one up there, and so when we fit this, you may have to put a little bit of pressure on it, but maybe not. Okay, that one in fairly easily. And I always like to put this in by hand as much as I can. That way I know it's going in the correct way. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tighten that. So as is written, 25 plus 5 Newton meters, it says there. I'm gonna tighten that, and then also we want to tighten this one. So let's not forget this one here. We again about 30 to 35 Newton meters for that. And you want to give it a clean, again using my brake cleaner to clean the area. Leave it nice and clean, that way next year you will know if there's any drips from there, any minor drips obviously, you will know where that maybe you didn't tighten it properly. We can also rinse this here a little bit because that got a little bit oily. But anyway, it's about keeping things clean, because if you leave it dirty, next year you might not know where that oil was from. If you forget and you left it dirty, then you might think there's oil coming from somewhere. So anyway, I'm gonna tighten my filter, close those little covers, and then lower the car. So we are ready to top up some oil. Now, as far as I'm aware, the 1.5 engine here takes 4.25 liters. And I've already poured some in there, so we don't have to be spending hours here watching me pour oil in there. So I have seen that in some websites that it says 5.2 liters, and I'm not sure if that is correct or not. I've always done 4.25 on this model. So if you are unsure of the oil capacity in your car, or even from my video here, I would advise you to double check with your supplier. So sometimes the places where you buy the oil from, they have the data in their computers and they are able to give you the oil capacity, because if you have a bigger engine than the 1.5, it kind of looks the same, but it may have a different oil capacity. So let's just get this car running now. And by all means, we can always, well, have to let it run for a while really, but so it warms up. But technically you can check the oil capacity in here. If you go to the menu and then you go to my vehicle, select my vehicle, and then go to vehicle settings, but go to vehicle status, and then go to engine oil level. Select that and then say measure engine oil level. So you click on that. Now it's not letting me do it right now because the engine is not warm enough. So I would have to let it warm up for a little while, and then I can check the oil level. But you could check your oil level that way and then see what the computer is showing you, and that's one way of checking, because we don't have a dipstick in this car as such, so unfortunately that's the only way to do it. So I may actually wait a little bit and see if that becomes available. I'm gonna let it warm up a bit and see if we can do it. Right, had the car running for a little while, so now we can start the measurement. Measuring engine oil level. And we'll see what that comes up with. Okay, so 100%, and that is at the max there. You can just see the little line of the max line there, the minimum and the max. so it's not over, it's right at the max. So I would say, as stated, 4.25 liters for this particular 1.5 engine. So that measurement took about a minute, because I'm going to fast forward it, so it will look on the video that it's going really fast, but it takes about a minute or so to do. So anyway, having said that, I hope you like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave me any comments if you have any questions, and obviously if I can answer, I will. If I don't know the answer, then I will also answer, but just saying I don't know. But yeah, so we'll see you on the next videos. Thank you for watching.